The kind stranger was a cold night on Earth. The streets were empty, and the wind carried the smell of smoke from faraway chimneys. The stars above looked quiet, like tiny lamps in the dark sky. In a small town, a man walked home with tired steps. His coat was old, his shoes broken, but he still carried himself with calm dignity. He was not rich, not powerful, and not famous. But he had something many others had lost: kindness in his heart. The man's name was Daniel. He worked small jobs during the day and barely made enough to buy food. Yet he never complained. He knew life was hard, but he also knew one truth: if you give kindness, it will return one day. He did not know when or how, but he believed it deeply. That night, as Daniel walked past an old abandoned building, he heard a faint sound. It was not the cry of an animal. It was the soft, weak voice of children. Curious, he stopped and looked around. The street was dark, the lamps broken. But he followed the sound. Behind the building, under a broken piece of roof, he found them. Two small girls sat close together, shivering in the cold. Their clothes were torn, their hair messy, and their faces pale from hunger. They looked like they had not eaten for days. One girl, the older one, hugged the younger to keep her warm. Her eyes were sharp, alert, but also full of fear. The younger girl's eyes were wide and innocent, tears running down her face. Daniel's heart sank. Kay knew hunger, he knew suffering, and he knew what it felt like to be forgotten. For a moment, he stood still, fighting with his own thoughts. He had only one meal waiting for him at home: bread, soup, and a little piece of meat. If he gave it away, he would sleep hungry again. But as he looked at the two girls, something inside him made the choice for him. He slowly bent down and spoke in a gentle voice. "Are you hungry?" The older girl nodded, suspicious at first. The younger one only whispered, "Please." Without another word, Daniel stretched out his hand. "Come with me. I will give you food." The girls hesitated. They did not trust. Stranger's life had taught them to be careful. But something in his voice felt different. There was no threat, no trick, only warmth. The older one finally nodded, and together they followed him. Daniel's home was small, nothing more than a single room. The wooden door creaked as he pushed it open. Inside, the air smelled of soup. It was not much, but to the girls it felt like heaven. Daniel quickly set the table and placed the bread and soup before them. He even gave them the small piece of meat he had saved for himself. "Eat," he said with a smile. The girls did not wait. They ate fast at first, then slower, as their stomachs filled. Their eyes softened, and the fear began to fade. The younger one even smiled for the first time. Daniel sat quietly, watching them. He felt a strange peace in his heart. He did not feel poor. He did not feel cheated by fate. For the first time in a long while, he felt rich, not in gold, but in meaning. After the meal, the younger girl leaned against him and fell asleep. The older one looked at him with serious eyes. She wanted to say something, but the words did not come. Instead, she whispered, "Thank you." Daniel simply nodded. He did not ask who they were, where they came from, or why they were alone. He only gave them a blanket and let them rest. In his mind, it was enough. A warm meal, a safe place, and a little kindness. But outside, the night sky seemed to glow brighter. Far above the earth, unseen by Daniel, strange eyes were watching. Hidden ships in orbit recorded everything. Silent voices whispered across the stars, and somewhere in the shadows, destiny shifted. Daniel had no idea that this one act feeding two forgotten girls would echo across time and space. He had no idea that his life, so ordinary and small, was about to touch the stars as he closed his eyes to rest. The narrator's voice could almost be heard in the wind. He fed two orphan girls a warm meal. And 10 years later, a luxury. Spaceship would appear at his door. Forgotten but not lost, 10 years passed, like dust carried by the wind. The world changed, but Daniel remained the same an ordinary man with an extraordinary heart. His hair turned gray at the edges, his hands grew rough from endless work, and his body carried the weight of struggle. Yet, inside him, there was still a flame that had not died. He still lived in the same small house at the edge of town. The walls were cracked, the furniture old, but his home carried warmth. Every day he worked as a helper in markets, lifting heavy boxes, cleaning shops, or repairing things for little money. He earned just enough to buy food and sometimes a new coat or shoes. But most of the time, he shared what he had with others. The people in town knew him. Some called him foolish. "Why waste your food on strangers?" they said. Others admired him quietly. But no one truly understood why he kept giving, even when he had so little himself at night. Daniel sometimes sat by the window and looked at the stars. He would remember the 2 girls he once helped. The memory had grown faint, like a half-forgotten dream. He wondered where they went. Did they survive? Did they find happiness? Or had they been lost to the cruel world like so many others? He never told anyone about that night. It was his secret, locked deep inside. He thought maybe it did not matter anymore. Perhaps he was just a footnote in their lives, one warm meal on a dark night. Nothing more. But fate was not finished with him. Whispers in the dark, strange stories began to spread across the town. Travelers spoke of lights in the sky, moving faster than any plane. Some said they saw shadows above the clouds. Others claimed to hear voices on the wind, speaking in languages no one knew. Daniel listened quietly, but never joined in. He did not believe in wild tales, or maybe he was too busy surviving to care. But one evening, while walking home, he stopped. In the middle of the road above him, the stars seemed brighter than usual. For a moment, he thought he saw something like a silver line cutting across the night sky. It vanished quickly, leaving only silence. He shook his head and walked on. But deep down, he felt something stir. It was the same feeling he had 10 years ago, when he first saw the 2 little girls shivering in the cold. A whisper inside told him, this means something. A lonely man years of kindness had given Daniel peace, but they had also left him lonely. He never married, never had children. He had friends, but they came and went, chasing their own lives. Sometimes, at night, when the streets were quiet and only the wind knocked at his window, Daniel felt the weight of being alone. He told himself it was fine. He had chosen this life. But still, a question always lingered in his heart. What is the purpose of my kindness, if the world forgets me? Little did he know, the world had not forgotten. And beyond the world, far above, 2 powerful beings had not forgotten either. Signs of change. One rainy evening, Daniel returned home soaked, his clothes heavy with water. As he placed his boots near the fire, he noticed something strange on his doorstep. It was a coin, shiny, glowing faintly, unlike any coin he had ever seen. He picked it up, turning it in his hand. The design was unfamiliar, like stars and circles woven together. The next day, when he returned from work, the coin was gone. In its place was a small flower, fresh and bright, though it had not rained that day. Daniel's heart raced. Was someone playing tricks? Or was this something else, something bigger? The whispers of lights in the sky grew louder in town. People were scared. They spoke of watchers and messengers. Some said the end of days was coming. Daniel did not know what to believe, but deep inside he felt a strange calm, as if whatever was coming was not here to harm him, but to find him, forgotten but not lost on the 10th anniversary of that cold night. Daniel once again sat by his window, watching the sky. The stars seemed alive, almost breathing. He closed his eyes, remembering the girls' faces, the hunger in their eyes, the fear, and then the relief when they ate his food. "They must have grown up now," he whispered. "Wherever you are, I hope you are safe." At that very moment, high above Earth, a signal was sent across the void. Two figures, far from humanity, received it. "They are ready," one said in a calm, commanding voice. "Yes," the other replied softly, "It is time." The stars outside Daniel's window flickered like candles in the wind. He thought it was his imagination, but no, it was the first sign of what was to come. Daniel did not know it yet, but his loneliness was about to end. His kindness, long forgotten by the world, had been remembered by others. And soon, the reward for one warm meal would arrive at his very door. The narrator's voice would whisper once again. He thought his life was small, and his kindness forgotten. But in truth, every act of kindness is a seed. And this seed was about to bloom not on earth, but among the stars. The arrival of the night was unusually quiet. Even the dogs in the town were silent, as if the air itself carried a warning. Daniel sat by his small window, staring at the stars like he often did. He liked to watch them, though he never truly understood why. They gave him comfort, a reminder that something bigger existed beyond his small life. But this night felt different. The stars seemed closer, brighter, as if they were leaning toward Earth, watching. Daniel rubbed his eyes, thinking it was just his tiredness. Yet the strange glow remained. Then it happened. The ground shook gently at first, then harder. Cups rattled on his table. The wooden frame of his little house groaned. Daniel grabbed the window frame for balance. His heart raced. It was not an earthquake, no. It was something else. Something from the sky. Lights in the sky. He rushed outside, and the cold air struck his face. His neighbors were already in the street, pointing upward. Above the town, the stars moved. Not twinkling, not drifting dash, moving dot. At first, it looked like a falling star, but instead of burning up, it slowed down. A silver light cut through the clouds, brighter and larger, with every second. The people gasped. Some ran inside, others fell to their knees in fear. Daniel's eyes widened. He could not move. The light descended slowly, silently, like a great bird folding its wings. Then the clouds split open, revealing it a ship. Not like any airplane or machine he had ever seen. It was smooth, shining like polished glass, shaped like a diamond with soft curves. Golden lights traced its edges, and strange symbols glowed on its side. It was not built by human hands. The ship hovered above the town square, casting a pale glow over every building. Then, with a low hum, it lowered itself toward the ground. The landing, the townspeople scattered. Some screaming, some hiding behind walls, but Daniel stood still. His legs shook, his breath was short, yet something deeper inside him told him not to fear. The ship touched down just outside his home. The earth trembled, but the landing was gentle, like a feather settling on the ground. The glow spread across the street, washing over Daniel's face. His old house looked tiny compared to the massive craft. For a moment, silence ruled. No one dared breathe. The ship did not move. It only glowed, as if it were alive. Then, a hiss. A section of the ship's wall began to shift. Lines of light appeared, forming a doorway. Slowly, the door slid open. A ramp extended to the ground, smooth and silver, shining under the night sky. Daniel's heart thundered in his chest. He felt the eyes of his neighbors on him. He knew without knowing why that this was for him. The first step from the glowing doorway, shadows appeared. Two tall figures stepped forward, moving with grace. They were covered in armor that shimmered like liquid metal. Their faces were hidden by masks, but their presence was undeniable, calm, commanding, powerful. The crowd gasped. Someone shouted, "Aliens." Another whispered, "The end of the world." But the figures did not threaten. They walked slowly down the ramp until they stood a few feet from Daniel. Then, to everyone's shock, one of them spoke not in a strange language, but in perfect human words. Daniel. The voice was soft, female, but carried weight like thunder. Daniel froze. He had never seen them before, and yet they knew his name. The second figure stepped closer. She tilted her head, as if studying him, then said the same word again, but softer, almost with warmth. Daniel. He swallowed hard, trying to find his voice. Who are you?" They did not answer right away. Instead, they lifted their hands and touched the sides of their masks. With a soft click, the metal faded away, revealing their faces. The revelation, the crowd gasped louder this time. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Two women stood before him, young, elegant, their eyes bright like stars. But Daniel knew those eyes. He had seen them before, a long time ago, in the cold and the dark. The older one's gaze was sharp, protective. The younger one's was soft, innocent, but filled with light. Daniel's heart stopped. His mind struggled to accept what his eyes showed him. The two orphans, the same girls he had fed 10 years ago. But no longer weak, no longer forgotten. They stood tall, wrapped in the power of the universe itself. The younger one smiled, the same way she had smiled. That night, after finishing her first warm meal, she stepped closer and whispered, just loud enough for him to hear, "We did not forget." Daniel's knees almost gave way. The world spun around him. The orphans he had once saved had returned. But they were no longer children. They were something far greater. Suspense builds. The townspeople stared, unable to understand. Whispers filled the air. Some shouted that it was a miracle. Others thought it was danger. But Daniel heard nothing. His eyes locked on the two women. His past and his present collided in that single moment. Why were they here? What did they want? And most of all, how had two starving children become beings powerful enough to arrive in a luxury spaceship? As Daniel stood frozen, the ramp behind them began to glow brighter, as if something even greater waited inside. The narrator's voice would echo in the mind of the audience. He gave them food when they had nothing. And now they had returned with everything. But what they brought was not just a gift. It was destiny. The revelation. The night air was heavy with silence. No one in the small town dared to move. The luxury spaceship glowed like a jewel in the darkness. And two women stood before Daniel, women who were once starving orphans he had saved 10 years ago. Daniel's hands trembled. His mind refused to believe what his eyes showed him. The girls he had once fed with the last of his food were now standing in shining armor. Their eyes filled with power and knowledge beyond human reach. The younger one smiled gently, her voice soft but carrying strength. "Daniel, we came back." A shocking truth. Daniel's mouth went dry. He whispered, almost to himself, "It can't be. You were children, two little girls." How? The older one stepped forward. Her face was calm, yet her eyes glowed faintly, not like human eyes, but like stars holding secrets. She looked directly at him. "You gave us a meal when we had nothing. You gave us hope when the world turned away. That night, you did more than you knew." Daniel shook his head slowly. "I only gave you food. I just wanted you to be safe." The younger one nodded. And that kindness changed everything. The crowd murmured in confusion. Neighbors whispered to each other. Some thought it was a trick. Others fell silent, sensing something far greater was happening. The hidden past. The older woman lifted her gaze toward the sky. "We were not only orphans, Daniel. We were more than human children. We were left on this world abandoned by those who feared us. Her voice grew stronger, each word echoing through the square. Our kind was hunted. We were hidden here on earth, weak, lost, and alone. We would have died in the cold that night, if not for you. The younger woman placed her hand over her chest. You saved us not only our bodies, but our spirit. You reminded us that kindness exists, even in a world that forgets the poor and weak. You gave us strength to hold on until we were found. Daniel's eyes widened. Found? By who? The older one's lips curved into a faint smile. By those who searched for us across the stars. They took us away, trained us, raised us, and gave us what was always ours. The heritage of a galactic empire. The empire's daughters, the crowd gasped. Words like empire and galactic were almost impossible for them to believe. But Daniel stood, frozen, unable to speak. The younger woman's voice softened again. For 10 years, we grew, we learned, we became leaders. But through it all, we remembered one thing: the man who gave us food when we were nothing. She looked at him with shining eyes. We remembered you, Daniel. His chest tightened. He had always thought his act of kindness was small, forgotten the next day. But here they stood, living proof that nothing was truly forgotten. The older one extended her hand toward him. Her voice was steady, royal, like a queen addressing her people. You gave us life. Now we return to give you more than you ever dreamed. The gift, the spaceship behind them, glowed brighter, its golden light washing over the street. The ramp widened, revealing glimpses of treasures inside shining halls. Strange symbols and technology far beyond Earth's machines. Daniel stared, barely breathing. Why? Why me? The older one's eyes softened, for the first time showing emotion. Because you are rare. In a world where so many close their hearts, you opened yours. You gave without expecting anything in return. To us, you are proof of why humanity deserves more. You are proof that even the smallest act of kindness can ripple across the stars. The younger one added, her voice trembling with warmth. We came not just to thank you, but to share what we have become. You are part of our story, Daniel. And we want you to walk with us into the future. Doubt and wonder. Daniel's knees grew weak. He sat slowly on the step outside his house, his old hands shaking. He had lived his life believing he was no one, just a poor man in a forgotten town. And now 2 women who commanded starships, who spoke of empires, who carried power beyond his imagination, were telling him he mattered. I don't understand, he whispered. I'm just a man. I don't belong in this. The older one knelt before him, lowering herself so. Her eyes met his. Her glowing gaze was fierce, but her words were gentle. You belong because you cared. And that is more powerful than any weapon, any crown, or any empire. The younger one leaned closer, her smile soft, like the girl he had once fed. Please, Daniel, don't say you are nothing. You are the reason we stand here today. Suspense builds. The crowd pressed closer, unable to look away. The spaceship loomed like a silent witness, its golden lights flickering softly. The townspeople whispered about miracles, about angels, about destiny. But Daniel only saw the faces of the 2 girls he once fed. He saw their hunger, their fear, and now he saw what they had become. He lifted his hand slowly, uncertain, and the younger woman took it gently in hers. Her touch was warm, steady, real. For the first time in years, Daniel felt tears in his eyes. He had not cried in a long time. But this moment broke through every wall he had built. The narrator's voice would echo. They were once forgotten orphans, saved by a meal. Now they had returned as daughters of the stars. And for Daniel, the man who thought he was ordinary, The truth was clear. He was never forgotten. He was chosen. But as the golden glow of the spaceship spread wider, another truth waited in the shadows. This was not only a reunion, it was the beginning of something far greater. The rewards, a golden glow of the spaceship spilled across the quiet street. The townspeople stood frozen, staring at the two women and the man they had come for. To them, it felt like a dream, something from stories and legends. But for Daniel, it was real, too real. The two women, no longer weak orphans, but powerful daughters of a galactic empire, stood before him. Their presence was overwhelming. Their voices carried weight. Yet their eyes held kindness. The younger one tightened her grip on Daniel's hand. "You gave us life when we had nothing. Tonight, Daniel, we return to give you more than life." The invitation. Daniel looked between them, his breath unsteady. "What do you mean?" The older one raised her hand, and the air shimmered. A beam of light shot from her palm, forming shapes in the night air. The crowd gasped as glowing images appeared, a world of shining cities built on floating platforms, ships sailing across stars, and towers that touched the sky. "This is our empire," she said. "Across the galaxy, billions live under our care. Power, wealth, and knowledge flow through our worlds. But everything we have, our strength, our survival, began with one act of kindness." The younger woman looked at Daniel with deep emotion. "Without you, we would have died on that cold night. Because of you, we live. Because of you, we rule. And now, we want you with us." Daniel's heart pounded. "With you, in this empire?" The older one nodded. "Yes, we offer you what humans have never known: eternal comfort, unshaken honor, and the respect of 1,000 worlds. You will never know hunger, never know loneliness again. You will sit among leaders. You will ride across the stars." The crowd gasped again. Some fell to their knees. Others whispered in fear, saying it was a trap. But Daniel only heard the steady voices of the two women before him. Memories of poverty. He looked down at his rough hands, scarred from years of labor. He thought of the nights he had slept hungry, the times he had given away his own bread so others could eat. He remembered the whispers of his neighbors who called him foolish, more useless. No, now, before him stood a gift beyond human imagination. "Why me?" he whispered. "I am just a simple man." The younger woman smiled softly. "Because greatness is not born from power, Daniel. It is born from kindness. That night, you planted a seed. It grew into something no empire could create on its own." The gift unveiled, the older woman turned toward the ship and spoke a word in a language no one understood. The ramp glowed brighter, and the ship's interior opened for all to see. Inside, there were halls of light, seats carved from crystal, walls that shimmered like water. Strange machines floated gently, and treasures from countless worlds sparkled in the glow. The crowd gasped in awe. Some shielded their eyes, too blinded by the beauty. The older woman extended her hand toward Daniel. "All of this we offer to you. Come with us. Live among the stars. Be honored as the man whose kindness changed destiny." Daniel struggled. Daniel's chest grew heavy. His mind raced. For years, he had lived a life of simplicity, thinking he was forgotten. Now, these two powerful women who once depended on him for survival were offering him everything. But questions burned inside him. What about my home? My town? My life here? I cannot just leave everything behind. The younger woman's eyes softened. "We do not ask you to abandon who you are. We ask you to expand who you are. The man who gave food to orphans can now give hope to worlds. Your kindness is not meant to stay hidden in this small town. It is meant to shine across galaxies." Her words struck his heart like fire. The crowd's fear behind him. The townspeople began to argue. Some shouted, "Don't go. It's dangerous." Others cried, "Take him. He deserves it." An old neighbor stepped forward. "Daniel, they are not human. How can you trust them?" Daniel turned to him, his voice calm but steady. "I trusted them once when they were just two hungry children, and they trusted me. Trust built this moment. Without it, none of us would be standing here." The crowd fell silent. A heavy choice, the older woman stepped closer. Her presence felt like standing before a storm, powerful yet steady. She spoke with finality. "Daniel, we offer you a choice. Stay here, in this life of struggle, or walk with us into a life beyond your imagination." Daniel's heart pounded. He looked at his house, the broken roof, the worn door. He looked at his neighbors, their faces filled with fear and wonder. Then he looked at the two women, no longer orphans, but leaders of the stars, waiting for his answer. His throat tightened. This was more than a reward. This was a turning point in his life, a chance to step beyond everything he had ever known. The narrator's voice would rise. He had given bread to the weak. Now the strong offered him galaxies. What would he choose? A life of comfort on earth, or a destiny among the stars? The scene froze in tension, the ship glowing brighter, the crowd holding its breath, and Daniel standing between two worlds. His choice would change not only his life, but perhaps the fate of humanity itself. The choice, the golden light of the spaceship, painted the night in a glow, both beautiful and terrifying. The crowd stood frozen, their eyes locked on the simple man at the center of it all. Daniel, who had lived quietly at the edge of town for years, was now the one who held the attention of both Earth and the stars. The two women, no longer orphans, but leaders of a galactic empire, stood before him, waiting for his answer. Their offer still echoed in his ears. Stay here and struggle, or walk with us into a destiny among the stars. Daniel's chest rose and fell heavily. He felt the weight of the choice pressing on him like a mountain. Doubt in his heart, he looked back at his house, the cracked walls, the leaky roof, the chair by the window where he spent countless nights staring at the stars. This was his life, simple, poor, but his. He looked at the townspeople. Some of them had mocked him in the past. Some had accepted his help when they were in need. Now they stared with fear and envy, whispering to each other. And then he looked at the two women. Their eyes were steady, filled with power, yet softened with kindness. They had remembered him for 10 long years. His heart whispered, "If I leave, will I still be me?" The crowd's voice, the silence broke. "Daniel, don't go." Someone shouted, "They're not like us." Another cried, "You'll never come back." A woman screamed in fear, but others argued back. "Go, Daniel. Do. Deserve it? They came for you. Take the chance. Don't waste what they're giving you." The voices clashed in the night, rising like a storm. The town was divided, half gripped by fear, half by wonder. Daniel closed his eyes, the noise pressing against his thoughts. He felt torn between two worlds, the familiar earth beneath his feet and the unknown stars waiting above. The older one speaks. The older woman raised her hand, and the crowd fell silent as if her gesture commanded the very air. Her voice rang clear, strong, like the toll of a bell. "Daniel, do not let their fear guide you. Humanity has always feared what it does not understand. But you," she pointed at him, "you once chose kindness over fear. That is why you are here now. That is why we came back." Her words struck deep. Memories of that night returned, the hungry faces of the girls, the cold wind, the warmth of the soup he had given them. He had chosen then without hesitation. Could he do the same now? The younger one's played younger woman stepped closer. Her voice was softer, almost trembling. "We know this choice is heavy. But please, Daniel, listen. You will not be lost with us. You will not be alone. We remember your kindness, and we want you to share in our journey. You gave us life. Let us give you a new one." Her eyes glowed, not with power, but with something human hope. Daniel's throat tightened. For 10 years, he had carried loneliness like a shadow. The thought of being part of something great, of not being forgotten, again burned in his chest like a hidden flame. A test of courage, but fear whispered in his ear. What if they are wrong? What if it is a trick? What if you step into that ship and lose yourself forever? He clenched his fists. His life on Earth was hard, but it was safe. It was known. The stars were unknown, dangerous, infinite, and yet, hadn't he always dreamed, while staring out his window, that the stars held something for him? Hadn't he always felt that his kindness meant something more than just surviving another day? The turning point, Daniel stood tall, his old back straightening, as though strength returned to his bones. He looked at the two women, and then at the glowing ship behind them. His voice was steady, though soft. 10 years ago, I gave you food because it was right. I never expected anything back. I never thought the stars would one day come for me. But maybe this is my path. The crowd gasped. He turned to his neighbors. All my life, you called me poor. You said kindness was weakness. But look where it brought me. Kindness has brought the stars to my door. Silence spread across the crowd. Some bowed their heads, ashamed. Others stared with awe. The decision. Daniel looked once more at his little house. He smiled sadly. It had been his shelter, his prison, and his comfort. But it was time to let go. He turned back to the women. His voice was calm, but filled with a new strength. I will come with you. The younger woman's eyes glowed with joy. The older one nodded firmly, respect shining in her gaze. The ramp of the spaceship pulsed with brighter light, as though the ship itself had heard his choice and welcomed him. Suspense for the future as Daniel stepped toward the ramp. The crowd parted. Some cried out in protest, others in celebration. But no one dared to stop him. He placed one foot on the glowing silver ramp. The metal felt warm, alive beneath him. He took another step and another, until he stood between the two women. For the first time in his life, Daniel felt he was walking not into survival, but into destiny. The narrator's voice would rise. He chose not fear, but hope, not safety, but destiny. And with that choice, the man who once fed orphans stepped into a world that would never be the same again. The ramp lifted, the doors of the ship closed, and the golden glow spread across the night sky. The crowd stared in silence as the ship began to rise. But in Daniel's heart, there was no silence. There was only the sound of a new beginning. The legacy. The night sky trembled as the great ship lifted from the ground. Its golden glow washed over the small town, turning every cracked wall and broken street into something magical. The crowd below stood frozen, their eyes wide, their hearts heavy. They had just watched Daniel, the quiet man they once overlooked, walk into the heart of the unknown. Inside the ship, the air was different, warm, pure, filled with a low hum, like music. The walls shimmered with flowing lights, shifting like living rivers of silver and gold. Daniel's eyes widened as he stepped further in. He had lived all his life in a small wooden house. Now he walked inside a palace built from starlight. The two women walked beside him, one on each side. No longer strangers, no longer orphans, they moved with pride. Yet their steps slowed for him, as though honoring the man who had made this possible. The journey begins. The ramp closed behind them, sealing away the world Daniel had known for 60 years. He did not look back. His heart was heavy with memories, but it was also alive with hope. The younger woman smiled softly. Daniel, From this moment, you are no longer alone." The older one added, her voice strong, "You walk with us. And through you, humanity walks with us." Daniel touched the wall beside him. It felt warm, almost alive, pulsing like a heartbeat. His reflection shimmered faintly in the golden surface. For the first time, he did not see himself as poor or small. He saw a man chosen. A window to the stars, they led him to a great chamber where the walls opened into vast windows. Daniel gasped. Beyond the glass stretched the endless sea of space. Stars burned like diamonds on black velvet. Worlds glowed in. The distance blue, green, golden, some wrapped in shining rings. He pressed his hand against the glass, his breath catching. "All my life, I looked up at the stars, never knowing they would one day look back at me." The younger woman leaned close, whispering with warmth, "And they remember your kindness, Daniel. Every light you see out there is now part of your story." The Empire revealed the ship sped faster than anything human could imagine. In moments, worlds grew large before them, showing vast cities rising above oceans and deserts. Towers gleamed like crystal mountains. Bridges floated in the air, connecting islands in the sky. Ships darted between them like birds of light. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He could not believe such wonders existed. He had once struggled to buy bread, and now he looked upon riches beyond imagination. The older woman extended her arm, pointing toward the worlds below. "All this, Daniel, belongs to our empire, and now it belongs to you as well. You will not live as a stranger here. You will live as a friend, as a father, as the man who gave hope when we had none." A seat of honor at last, they entered the grand hall of the ship. A long table stretched across the chamber, glowing softly. Symbols carved in light floated above it. At the end of the table stood a high seat, elegant and shining. The women turned to him. The younger one smiled. "This seat is yours. Sit, Daniel. Tonight you are not a poor man from a forgotten town. You are the one who showed kindness when no one else did. And for that, the stars honor you." Daniel's legs trembled as he sat. The chair adjusted to him, glowing brighter as though it recognized him. He felt warmth spread through his body, not just comfort, but belonging, the weight of destiny. For a long moment, Daniel sat in silence, overwhelmed. He thought of his younger self, working in markets, giving away food even when he had none. He thought of the cold night when he gave 2 starving girls a warm meal. Back then, he had not done it for reward. He had not done it for glory. He had done it because it was right, and now, the universe itself honored him for it. He turned to the 2 women, his voice steady but humble. "I don't know if I deserve this, but I will carry it. Not for myself, but for everyone who ever thought kindness was worthless. Let them see that even the smallest act can change the stars." The older woman bowed her head. The younger one whispered, "That is why you deserve it." The new beginning, the ship's engines roared softly, and Daniel felt the stars move around him. He was no longer bound to earth. He was part of something greater, far below. The townspeople still stared at the empty sky, some in awe, some in fear. They would tell stories of this night for generations. The night a simple man walked into the stars. Inside the ship, Daniel closed his eyes, peace filling him. For the first time in years, he did not feel forgotten. He did not feel small. He felt alive. Legacy of kindness. A narrator's voice would rise. Carrying the weight of the tale, he fed 2 orphan girls a warm meal. 10 years later, they returned with a gift greater than kingdoms, greater than crowns. They gave him the stars. His kindness became a legacy, written not in stone, but in the hearts of worlds. For in the end, it is not power that shapes destiny. It is kindness. The golden ship disappeared into the night sky, leaving Earth behind. And with it, Daniel's story entered legend. legend not of war or conquest, but of compassion. A single act of kindness had changed the fate of humanity. And this was only the beginning.